Welcome to Navigating Cancer Together. My name is Talaya Dindi. I'm a cancer thriver, cancer doula, independent patient advocate, and owner of On the Other Side. I use my experience to help others get on the other side of cancer. Gaps between the guidance, emotional support, and education that are needed and what one receives can be huge. This podcast fills those gaps by sharing stories, resources, and information about all things related to cancer and wellness. I interview guests from all walks of life who are living with cancer, caregivers, and those who are thriving on the other side. Also, I talk with organizations, healthcare professionals, and experts in the health and wellness spaces who offer complementary and integrative care. Join me. We are in this together. Hello, everyone. This is Talaya Dindi from On the Other Side Life, and you're listening to Navigating Cancer Together, the show that has something for everyone facing cancer. Why? Because everyone is different with different needs, beliefs, and perspectives. Thank you for joining us for this episode. I encourage you to open your minds and your hearts. Today, our very special guest is Simone Lüthi, the Rocket Shaman. Simone is a bold-spirited founder and CEO, corporate strategist, alternative medicine practitioner, author, and podcaster. He's a busy man. Confronted with a mystery illness and cancer, he journeyed from the depths of Wall Street to seek wisdom from the Q'ero Shamans in Peru and a Yupik medicine woman in Alaska. Inspired by the knowledge gained, he launched a private wellness practice focused on global wellness retreats, and created Applied Neuro-Cellular Therapy as a new modality merging ancient wisdom with modern science. His latest venture is a unique wellness as a service software platform, aiding companies in promoting employee well-being. Simone, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome.
Thanks, Alaya. So glad to be a part of your show. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. My pleasure. You have such an interesting background. I can't wait to dive into it. But before we get started, how are you feeling today, Simone?
I am excellent. I'm excellent. Thanks for asking. Yeah, it's like whenever I hear somebody read my bio, I go, well, man, I had a pretty crazy life. And we keep on going. That's the main part.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. That means you're living life. That's what it's about.
that's
Yes.
right. Exactly after what I've been through and many of your listeners have been through. So hopefully I can be a bit of a vessel of hope and, share a bit of my journey.
Absolutely. Thank you. Simone, can you start by providing a bit of your background and your cancer journey?
Yeah, so I would say, illness journey or disease, I guess, disease, right, that we sometimes call it as well, started actually in 2015 with an autoimmune. That was kind of the precursor of, feeling like something was wrong. And I found myself bedridden, couldn't get out of bed. My joints were swollen. And so this was what I would call my first health crisis in that respect. And I found help in alternative medicine in Germany. And that was going to be key then in 2020 when out of the blue, I came down with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So talking about 2020 being a bit of a tough year for all of us, throw cancer on top of that. So anyone else out there that's been through, my heart is going out to you because, having to then receive treatment in a complete pandemic and you couldn't have families there. So, but anyway, I was diagnosed, and I would say, I guess if you want cancer, or if you get cancer, that's the one. Nobody wants cancer. That's apparently the one, to get from what I understand, and it's, very curable. So I am now 4 years or 3.5 years in, and,
Yay.
just had my checkup and doing great.
Congrats.
I just came back from the oncologist last week, and she goes, keep on doing what you're doing. Everything will be great. And so I'm planning on keeping it this way.
Good for you. I'm so happy to hear that. And I bet that feels, like the load has lightened. You're not looking so much over your shoulders now because once you get that diagnosis, you get through the treatment, then you worry about recurrence. So hearing those words, it must be like a breath of fresh air for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I don't know about others. I actually don't like to be asked about it, you know. So amongst survivors, I think it's a different story. But people that haven't gone through, there's always a little bit of a vibrational undertone of like, how you doing? How you really are, you know? And so I don't really think about it at all. I mean, yeah, I have to go in every 6 months, you know, for a checkup, but it doesn't really enter my consciousness. I really do feel like it's in the rearview mirror because words have power, right? And so sometimes even that question, how are you doing, brings up a little bit of the anxiety and PTSD of like, how am I doing? You know, and is it really gone? Can I really believe, you know, all of that? And so a lot of my lessons and I think my wisdom that I'm, you know, sharing is all about positive affirmations. And so I try to keep a positive mindset on all of that and don't want to give it really a whole lot of room and space, you know, if you know what I mean,
I
and
do.
live my life.
Good for you. I like what you said. Words have power. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves of that. So thank you for saying that. Very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, just on that note, if you think about it, sometimes we give our doctors way too much power, right? So if somebody comes and says, well, you've got a terminal diagnosis and you've got, you know, whatever, 3 months to live, who are you, doctor, to determine how long I'm supposed to live, right? So, and that goes with any other illness, you know, and I'm actually one of those that really, you know, want to have a bit of another wave coming in where we as patients really want to take our power back. This can be simple things such as physical therapy of like, oh no, you're never going to get there. You're too old or you're too this or you're too that. I'm like, you know, how dare you? Like, you know, I determine my own destiny. And I think having positive, you know, positive mindset and really a drive towards getting well is half the battle.
That's so true. Very true. And on that note, exploring your options. I'm really curious to know, how did you find the medicine woman in Alaska and the Q'ero Shamans?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, that's why I wanted to share about my autoimmune because it is important in the entire, you know, journey. So when I had an autoimmune, I went to Western medicine and, you know, one of the top clinics at the time, and they were, you know, prodding and lab work and all this kind of stuff. And they kind of came up with some, you know, diagnosis that is just words, you know. So I talk in my blogs for anybody who's interested in going deeper a little bit on that. And the interesting thing is the doctor actually wanted to put me on malaria medication and said, you should go and see an ophthalmologist because you could go blind. And
Oh,
I go, okay, doc, my eyes are the only thing that are working right now. So why would I mess with that? And that was kind of the first, I can't really tell you what it was, but it was an intuitive knowing that I wanted to get to the root cause of what's making me sick in the first place. I didn't want to just throw medicine at it. I really wanted to figure out what is this illness showing me, you know, and why is this happening for me, not to me. And so I was obviously looking at a bunch of different alternatives. And so the Q'ero Shamans, I got introduced through Alberto Villoldo. He's one of the Neo-Shamans. He's a famous author. He brought the wisdom of the shamans of South America to the Western world under the belief that, you know, disease can be caused, of course, by, you know, poor nutrition and environmental toxins and all that, but also can have a karmic reason for it, right? And so that was kind of the first introduction into, oh, there is more between heaven and earth in terms of healing practices that can be very successful if applied properly. That's where that journey started with the Q'ero Shamans. And then Rita Pitka-Blumenstein is the Yupik elder that I love dearly. She passed away now since, but she was the only non-medical medical person in the Alaska Native Hospital in Anchorage. So really, you know, doing a lot of unconventional methods, plant medicine and wisdom. And so she initiated me as well in this healing modality and, you know, owe her a lot. And then obviously in the cancer diagnosis, same thing, right? So you go to, you know, a doctor. I was actually misdiagnosed twice again.
oh,
And finally, then, you know, had to do some biopsies. And then what do you do, right? And most of us, I would argue, when you get faced with something like this, you go into complete panic mode, stress, panic mode. And then what do? We usually use Dr. Google. You know, what does that
yes.
mean? What should I do? Where should I? And then the rest of the family and like your tribe is starting to freak out about it, right? It's like, oh my God, like we need to fight this thing. We need to do something about it. And it was the same for me. My kids were very out of fear, feeling like, hey, you really should do chemo. And I didn't really want to poison my body. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to try something different first. And I would say I threw the kitchen sink at it. So I went to Germany to an alternative doctor that I had met through the Q'ero Shamans to try an unconventional IV laser therapy to kill the cancer cells. And I'll talk a bit about what that all entails and what that is. Okay. And then decided, okay, well, maybe my kids are right, So I had 4 rounds of chemo that year and then went back to Germany to get all of the poisons back out of my system, right? It was really important to me to do that. So I can't really tell you what cured me at the end in 2020. I have a different story of 2021 when it reoccurred. But in 2020, I felt like I've done all the right steps of doing things for me that I felt like, hey, I wanted to do a gentler way of dealing with the cancer. And then still I wanted to live. So, what do you do? But like I said, it's so tough when you are faced with this diagnosis to take a beat. And I mean, like, take a week, take 2 weeks, take a month maybe of just like, okay, so what are my options? Where can I go? And, it's so hard to find other survivors with the same diagnosis, right? Where do you go? Okay, do you go Facebook? Do you go Google? Where's some support groups? And even then, a lot of Western medicine are prevalent in like, what the treatment options are. And that's really ultimately what I made my life mission now of not fighting Western. I think it has its place, absolutely, but I do feel like it's time that we take a more holistic and integrative approach to health in all things, whether it's cancer or not. And that's really what I'm out to promote.
Wonderful. I agree 100%. What did you learn while navigating cancer?
Well, again, the question really is, and I found that in a book, this is like 10, 15 years ago when a friend of mine was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I can't even remember what the book was, but the author in there said, why is this happening to me is the fundamentally wrong question to ask, right? Why is this happening for me? And I think we don't really have the time to really spend time in that realm, right? And so for me, there was definitely a lot of resilience and transformation of like a willingness to live and a willingness to put this behind. And the interesting thing for me, and probably the biggest learning, was in 2021. So I thought everything is, behind me. I started to work again. And in the May timeframe of 2021, I felt this growth in the back of my throat reappearing. And you look and you go, this cannot happen. This cannot happen again. So I took the approach, and, there is a bit of disclosure. We're going to go in a little bit of the woo-woo aspect of all that. So if you allow me to. So the interesting thing is I felt like, okay, why is this happening for me? And what am I missing here? What is it that is going on? And so through a couple other books that I had, I'm very interested in incarnations and soul plans and soul journeys and why are we on earth? And, are we deciding perhaps pre-birth why we're going through certain things? And one of the psychics or mediums, you could call it, told me, listen, you have in an incarnation out of 9 karmic lessons that you get to choose, you chose 6. So the fact that you have a pretty crazy life is undeniable. And I was like, yeah, okay, that is kind of, what I'm feeling. And she goes, in past lives, you've committed suicide. And so you said to yourself that you were going to live a long and healthy life, like that you wanted to die in this lifetime of a natural death. And suicide, accidental suicides, illnesses, all these things kind of go into the same category. And something interesting happened in that realization of like, okay, so if I want to live a long and healthy life, why am I not? Like, what is it about this, like 2016 and then 2020 and then 2021? What am I not seeing? And the interesting part about it was I realized my mom or our mom would always say, boys, you need to go have a colonoscopy because colon cancer runs in the family. And my sort of affirmation, I thought, positive affirmation was cancer is not my future. Well, words have power and the universe doesn't understand the word no or not. So I go, the ultimately absolutely wrong manifestation for me to use. So I rephrased that in saying, I live a long and healthy life. I'm healthy. nothing else to it. But basically repeating that, 30, 40 times out loud for, well, in my case, it was 10 days and it was gone. And so when you think about, we are 80% water in our body, right? And you can have ripples, you can put a stone in the lake and that starts to go. And there's all kinds of studies by now that looked at what positive affirmations actually do to liquid structures. I found it very, very fascinating, right? That by taking the power back, that it was such a simple, you know, phrase, but it had profound positive impact for me.
Wow, very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that because that goes back to what you shared when we started. Words have power and they can do good or they can do something not so good. So be mindful of what you're putting out there.
That's right.
Simone, how did you know that you had a gift in energy healing?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know I had one until I went through that first autoimmune. And so that very first seminar with the Q'ero Shamans and the wisdom of old, we had a ceremony at the end of the week to kind of celebrate what we had learned that week. And I still remember we were standing on this castle ruin on the border of Switzerland, Austria, and France. Beautiful evening. I had my hand up in the air to just kind of give thanks to all beings, and felt energy hitting my hand for the first time. It's almost like a subtle feeling of, like an energetic water hose hitting my hands, and a kind of tingly sensation. And I was startled a bit. I wasn't really sure what that meant. And I was told I needed to, develop that. So now I'm still in corporate America. I'm an executive in a bank. And now they're telling you that you need to develop some kind of, energetic, something you can't even see.
Very different.
Yeah. And for about a year, I was like, no way, because I knew this was going to just rock my world, and, my whole entire reality would crumble. And you know what? About a year later, I just couldn't run from it anymore. It's just something that came in. And then I asked a friend, what should I do? And he recommended, well, maybe you need to look into Reiki. It's a Japanese healing modality by putting hands on the body. And if we know that, instinctively, every mom, when the child falls, it's, you usually put the hand on wherever it hurts. Or even if we have a stomach ache, right, we put our hands on it. We have a headache, we put our hands on it, right? So it's nothing more to it except maybe, in my intentions and in my journey, I have been gifted or developed some of these, I guess, healing modalities, you could call it. It's more, I know things, I feel things, but it's ultimately just the energy flowing through me. So it's not anything that I, perhaps do. It's just something that anybody could do. But yeah, so that was the very beginning of kind of me stepping into this gift of alternative medicine. I've seen, I've treated hundreds of clients by now. Over the years, I've seen so many amazing things that can take place. And yeah, that's kind of been the beginning of all of this in this journey. I think this is something I will be doing until the rest of my life.
That is wonderful. I have a question for you, Simone. When you stopped running at that moment, what changed for you at that moment?
When I stopped running, you mean?
Yeah, from your gift, when you said, okay,
Oh,
I'm going to embrace this.
yeah, yeah.
How did it change? What changed?
Well, I started my own private practice, but it kind of, be behind closed doors, so to speak, right? Like if people only knew, right? And people meaning in my vocation and my corporate job, I thought like, oh my gosh, they think I'm nuts and crazy and nobody will speak to me again. And it was really interesting. I think one of the most profound things that I've done, can't remember when it was, probably 2018. I put Reiki Master on my LinkedIn profile as one of the things I did. And I thought the world was going to come to an. And then the most surprising thing happened. Nothing. In the contrary, people were pretty open and asked questions. And so that led to some pretty amazing conversations. So I think I just, for me, decided that it was time to be my authentic self, everything. And I think that's something we all struggle. I mean, even a CEO has imposter syndrome, right? But I think it's so important that we show up authentically and with all of our gifts. And, if you have some people that don't like you or think you're crazy, then, oh, well, that's their problem, right? It's just sometimes you have to just kind of brush it off and do
Yeah,
your thing. I think the world will be a much better place.
that's right. And it's a gift that God gave you, not them. So, hey, yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Mhm. Please share with us the type of clients that come and see you.
Yeah, I have pretty much everything from nerve pain to muscle aches to headaches, chronic migraines, to more emotional, so anxiety, PTSD, panic attacks, perhaps, even to, grief. I lost a loved one as a result and, want some comfort and some next steps. So it's really kind of runs the gamut. I treat anything from the 3-year-old to, the 100-year-old. So it's whatever, I can help with.
Simone, I've heard in these types of healing modalities that clients have to have a certain mindset or be open minded. Have you found that to be the case for your work as well?
Absolutely. And both consciously and subconsciously ready for, things, and I would call them miracles sometimes, and or, for things to just happen positively. And this may be a good time to talk a little bit about applied neurocellular therapy,
Yes.
because how this all came about was, so I have three types of clients. I have the once and done, so they come one time and all the things are gone. Then more often than not, it is a little bit like going to the chiropractor. It's layers, right? You have to kind of stay at it until you kind of get to the point of what's going on. And then the most peculiar ones is the third one. It doesn't work at all.
Mhm.
And there's probably a little bit of ego coming in as well when you're doing this kind of work, right? Of like, why am I doing, I'm doing the same thing. Why isn't this working? But what I've realized was that even some clients that come in that will say, I want to get better, have a subconscious blockage or something happening where they're not really 100% open. And I was really fascinated by that. And I thought, well, how do I get kind of an almost an, how do I override their conscious and subconscious mind in a way so that actually the healing energy can flow to the places that it needs to go? And so I've discovered Lucia light. So it's basically it uses stroboscope and LED that penetrates your pineal gland and fires on all four brain waves. So the alpha, beta, theta, and delta waves. And you have to kind of envision, you see kaleidoscopes and colors and all kinds of things. It's a deep meditation. It's almost an LSD trip without drugs. So it's completely drug free, but it's just the brain waves that start to fire and give you this almost a bit of a psychedelic journey. It's pretty wild. And I put people under for about 20 minutes or so under the light. So it's just kind of a completely safe. It's a meditative state. A lot of research has been done in universities on it. And I then have kind of a half an hour, 45-minute window where that process severs the neurological brainwaves from the cellular structure just long enough so that I can actually go in much, much, much deeper. And it has been proven to be, pretty promising in the clients that I have seen. So that's how that all came about. So applied neurocellular therapy, which is trademarked, but is nothing more than combining modern technology with ancient wisdom.
Thank you for sharing that. Do you work with your clients in person? Is it via Zoom, over the phone? How do they benefit from your services?
Yeah, I do both. I like the in person a lot because there is obviously, something to be said about the environment of my practice. It's very high vibrational and super safe. But yes, I see clients from all over the world in Zoom sessions, so it can also be done. The energy flows through time and space and dimensions. There's evidence of that. NASA worked on some of these things as well. They had to figure out how to treat astronauts on the space station. So it is an interesting modality and can be done remote.
Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Simone, please tell the listeners where they can find you and find out more information about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So probably the best way is my website, www.simonluthi.com. And there is a contact form on there. You can click. My phone number, I think, is on there too. And, absolutely get in contact with me this way.
I will share that information in the listen notes as well, so they can easily find you. Now, we're going to shift a little bit because there's something else that you do. You are a certified end of life doula. What is it like to work with a certified end of life doula, and why should someone consider hiring one?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Such a sacred work. Through my own journey with cancer and kind of the recognition that life is terminal and at some point for all of us, it comes to the end. There is really a big void and gap in our society if you think about it. Like when a child is born, everybody rallies, you have midwives and you have doctors and nurses and all that. But when it comes to the end of the life, we've sort of lost our context. It's scary, right? So we don't talk about it. A lot of people are dying alone in hospitals. We just have kind of lost the way if that's the most natural way of, passing on. And for me, it is not done with death. It continues. It's just a matter of that we're this physical body for this time is done. So there is some beautiful movements around the world to bring back death doulas. That's something that we've had centuries ago and in other cultures. And so in the modern world, really, thanks to really Suzanne O'Brien, she is an amazing human being. She's an RN that's gone through, oncology hospital and hospice. And she's the one that brought, Doula Givers International kind of to the mainstream. You can look her up if you're interested. She has training programs as well. And so the doulas are really a conduit between the medical personnel and hospice and the family. So it's a little bit about, safety protocols or, oh my gosh, like there's so much to now, like same thing, stress, right? So somebody just had a terminal diagnosis. What do you do now afterwards, right? And so the doulas really do all of the things or can do all of the things to kind of help navigate the journey. So we don't administer any medication. We don't do any kind of hands-on medical work. It's really all about safety, for instance, right? Is this person now comfortable, in the room? Does the family need help? Because, sometimes, an aging couple now, the other spouse needs to take care of it, but they're kind of frail themselves. So, are dishes piling up in the kitchen, are there things that can be helped all the way to making sure, again, education on medication, making sure somebody is comfortable, doesn't have any pain. There's things about coaching people to give a loved one permission to die, and is there eulogies, and there's also a lot of, hey, let's talk about life, let's videotape, let's, so it's basically the gamut of just having someone that can take the fear away of the death part and having it kind of as a resource, whether that's questions or, some people like us to come a couple times a week to check in, just kind of how it's going. So the services are a variety of different things, and why you should hire somebody, because unless you've gone through it with somebody, it's new territory, and it's kind of just nice to have someone where you can ask questions and help organize with things, family coordinate, family, you get it. To me, combining it with my shamanic work, I also then come in and make sure that someone, again, I'm going to go a little woo-woo here on everybody, but when you have people that can't let go, we see it all the time, right? That they just cannot let go. I've seen it even in hospital beds where they, visibly hold on to the rails of the bed. So the work that I do is to kind of alleviate a lot of the energetic footprint on someone. So that could be fear, it could be regret, I shouldn't have done that, I sinned, right? Or so you get, like, there's regret and fear, and like, and now it's almost too late with all that. So, through this shamanic process, we can clear kind of the gunk and the sludge of all these things to calm someone down. So it makes the dying process more comfortable. And then, as the soul transitions to the other side, it makes the journey peaceful and safe. And, so that's kind of why I've ultimately done it, because I did the shamanic aspect, but I felt ill-equipped to handle like what's happening before someone dies, right? And I didn't want to just come in and help kind of on the last journey. So that's when I got certified last year, and find it just absolutely beautiful work.
Very important work, and more people need to know about it. I'm curious to know, Simone, at what stage should someone get in touch with an end of life doula if that's something that they decide they want to do? So, is it when someone enters hospice, palliative care? Is there a right time to start working with an end of life doula?
I don't think there's a right or a wrong time. I think at any given time, right? It could be even someone that is elderly, that is doing well, that needs help with, hey, I need help with paperwork on, like, advanced directives, or, I actually want to write my biography, and I need help, telling the story. I need help with my will. So I need help with some people really like to have the funeral planned out and the songs that she wants to have played, and the eulogy and all these things. And honestly, that is such a big gift for the family that is left behind, because it's all organized, right? It's almost like by the time it happens, here's a folder, almost like a rundown of things that have to happen. So where you don't have to frantically go, oh, I don't know what we're now going to do. And, I've seen that with my dad passing. He gave us, learned that from him, like a big gift. I mean, he picked the funeral home, he picked the plot, he picked everything. He had the music picked out, he had his bio written. So when we knew it was time, it was basically, here's the playbook. Thanks, Dad. And that made it so much, easier then. So you can really focus on grieving and going through the process of saying goodbye to someone and not feeling like you're now in another like overdrive mode, right?
Yeah, that is a gift that you leave to your loved ones. Yes, indeed. I
Yeah.
believe that.
And then it can be, the doctor says it's going to be, hours and days. And that can also be when you go, hey, we just need help, and hire someone, right? Like what I'm trying to communicate is it can go all the way from, hey, I'm still healthy, but I need help, to all the way to, wow, this is coming and we're completely afraid and we need someone to help us through that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's very important for people to understand that it doesn't matter what time, where you are, just reach out for help. You're there to help and support families and people as well. One thing I want to ask is, where did you get your training and certifications for the work that you do?
So you're asking about like the shamanic training or the,
Yeah.
so I trained with the Four Winds. So the Four Winds organization is Alberto's organization where you can get trained on the shamanic practices. And then I had a bunch of different teachers that came along the way that just showed up. There's a beautiful saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will show up.
Yes.
So that's even how I serendipitously met grandmother Rita. It just kind of, kept happening. And then, like I mentioned, the doula givers is Suzanne O'Brien's program. So if anybody's interested in the death doula certification, that can be done online through Zoom, and we need more of you. So
Thank you so much for sharing that. And finally, Simone, what is one I wish I would have known? And it can be about anything.
well, I think I wish I would have known much sooner that a lot of healing can take place with, words, positive affirmations, the healing hands per se. I think I could have saved myself a lot of headaches and or painful situations in life. And maybe ultimately, had I known I would ever like get into a cancer diagnosis, I would have maybe prepared myself a little bit for like, okay, so what do you do when that happens? On the same token, right? Positive affirmations, you don't want to really give that power, right? So the whole research on it. I'm just saying it would have helped me to have more and better tools at my fingertips when the diagnosis came to go, okay, again, time out. What options do I have? And I think it would be awesome to have, a more encyclopedia on like, here are all the different things you can do, right? That's both
Yes.
Western and that's both, Eastern, and that's alternative and integrative. And you can then tune in and go, what's the right choice for me, right? That's ultimately, we need to take our choices back. And that will be maybe one of the things I wish I would have had at my disposal.
I agree with you on that, Simone. It's so important. And like you said, you don't want to give your power away. So just knowing what's available to you can make a world of difference in your outcomes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And remember, people always say, I live a long and healthy life. I'm healthy. That will be my like leave with the audience of something that anyone should do, regardless of whether they're healthy, not healthy, but positive affirmation. I guarantee you it's life changing.
Yes, I love that. Anything else, Simone, that you want to share that you didn't have an opportunity to share?
I just appreciate you, having me on the show, and reach out to me again, www.simonluthi.com, or drop me a note. However I can help. Love to be a resource.
Thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you for all the knowledge and wisdom that you've shared, the positive affirmations that we all need. Great reminders to talk to ourselves with love each and every day. Before we end, I'd like to give a shout out to the listeners. Thank you so much for joining us. please share, follow, or subscribe so that you can easily find this podcast and listen again. You can listen to Navigating Cancer Together on Amazon Music or wherever you get your podcast. If you're looking to expand your LinkedIn network, please join me on LinkedIn. As an active member of the platform, I would like to personally invite you to connect with me. Let's grow our connections together. Search for Talaya Dendy. That's TALAYADENDY. That is it for this Wednesday. And until next time, let's keep navigating cancer together. Take care. Thanks for listening to this episode of Navigating Cancer Together. I hope you found it helpful. Please be sure to subscribe, share, and tell your friends and family about it. For notes from the show and previous episodes, visit ontheotherside.life and check out the podcast section. I would love it if you join me for the next episode. Talk to you soon.